Hey everyone, welcome back to Ameta Academy Friday Lives. Today we're talking about one of the most practical camera categories for wide area surveillance, 180-degree panoramic cameras. This category of cameras has become really popular because it solves a very common problem, and that problem is how do you cover large open areas without installing multiple cameras? Parking lots, storefronts, warehouses, long exterior walls, open commercial spaces. These are environments where standard cameras often leave gaps and where customers end up needing multiple cameras just to see one scene. But with 180-degree panoramic cameras, they don't need multiple cameras to avoid blind spots. They just need these cameras. So today we're going to break down the technology behind these cameras, the difference between single lens and dual lens panoramic, the AI-based models, real installer partner projects, installation and sales tips, and why these cameras are becoming such a strong alternatives to multi-camera setups. Next slide. So let's start with what is a panoramic camera. A panoramic CCTV camera is a surveillance device designed to capture ultra-wide, seamless views of large areas, typically ranging from 180 to 360 degrees. By replacing multiple traditional cameras with a single unit, it eliminates blind spots, drastically reduces installation costs, and simplifies your overall security setup. Today, we are focusing on 180 cameras, specifically the two variations, single lens panoramic and dual lens panoramic. These cameras make a big difference, and here's the difference between the two. So let's start with the single lens panoramic cameras. Single lens panoramic cameras typically give you a taller image, so you're seeing more top to bottom coverage, while still getting a very wide horizontal scene. This works really well for storefront entrances, hallways, closer commercial environments, tighter monitoring scenes. You still get the 180-degree wide image, but with more vertical visibility. Now, dual lens panoramic cameras behave differently. These cameras, in many cases, the dual lens panoramic visually feels wider than a traditional 180-degree scene because of how much horizontal coverage it captures. So, when choosing panoramic cameras, it's not just about resolution, it's about the shape of the scene you're trying to cover. And once you understand that difference, the AI-based lineup makes a lot more sense. So let's take a look at our two AI-based models. Next slide. This is the AI-based 5 megapixel single lens panoramic turret. It is a really strong everyday panoramic camera for commercial projects. You're getting a 180-degree coverage, 5 megapixel resolution, full color night vision, active deterrence, built-in mic and speaker, and AI analytics. But the big thing here is the image shape. This model gives you a taller panoramic image, which makes it really effective for storefront entrances, hallways, and closer monitoring environments. So, this is not just a wide angle camera, it's a wide area intelligent surveillance system. Now, for customers who need much wider side-to-side visibility, the dual lens model takes it further. Next slide. This is a 4K dual lens panoramic turret. With this camera, you're combining ultra-wide panoramic coverage using dual lens imaging and 4K resolution. As a result, this camera enables you to monitor large scenes while still maintaining strong detail across the image. And that becomes especially important in parking lots, large storefronts, open commercial spaces, industrial environments. So if you're doing a project in any of these sites, dual lens panoramic is one to go for. Okay, now that we covered two AI-based 180 camera models, let's look at how installer partners are using them in the field. Next slide. One of the most common deployment of these cameras has been at retail storefronts. Think wide front sidewalk, store entrance, parking directly in front. With standard cameras, a store wouldn't have to needed one camera left, one camera right, and one at the entrance. Instead, Ameta installer partners deployed a single 180-degree panoramic camera mounted centrally to cover the same area that 3 cameras would have covered. As a result, the customer got full storefront visibility, fewer blind spots, cleaner install, and lower hardware count. And the same concept applies really well in parking lots, especially for smaller commercial parking lots. On these sites, customers wanted to see parked vehicles, entry flow, pedestrian movement, and vehicle activity. So, installer partners deployed one panoramic camera mounted on the building facade that covered the entire front parking area. And because it is active deterrence, the camera also provided visible warning lights, audio response, and AI triggered alerts. Now, let's look at another common field application for these cameras: warehouse and loading areas. Typically, at these sites, you have long exterior walls, loading bays, forklift movement, vehicle traffic. With traditional cameras, multiple units were required just to cover the wall line. Installer partners use panoramic cameras to dramatically reduce the camera count while maintaining full visibility. The result? More coverage, fewer cameras, cleaner deployments. And across all these projects, that's really the pattern: wide area visibility without overbuilding the system. So, now let's talk about how to properly install and position these. Next slide. I'm going to share 5 tips to help you really win with panoramic cameras. Number 1, use the right tip of panoramic camera. If you need more top-down coverage, use single lens. If the site requires wider end-to-end coverage, choose dual lens option. Number 2, mount the cameras at the right spot. These cameras work best when mounted centrally along the viewing area. Number 3, cell coverage, not megapixels. You're replacing multiple cameras with one wider, cleaner view. That's the value you should highlight to your customers. Number 4, use these cameras for horizontal wide view coverage. Think storefronts, hallways, parking lots. On these sites, these cameras do really well. And lastly, don't forget active deterrence. Wide coverage plus active response becomes a very strong combination, or I should say, winning combination. Now, let's wrap with this key takeaway. These cameras solve a very real surveillance challenge, and that is, how do you cover large scenes without adding unnecessary cameras? And the answer is 180-degree panoramic cameras, because with these cameras, you get wider visibility, fewer blind spots, cleaner installations, and smarter coverage. All right, that's it for me. Now I'm going to hand it over to Zach from Tech Squad. Zach?
Yeah, thank you, Austin. So, for everyone joining today, I'll be covering the difference, just like Austin mentioned, showing you the top to bottom, a wider angle, and then also the side by side of both cameras, showing you the main difference in viewing. And also for our new partners joining us, I'll be doing a full comprehensive walkthrough on how to add the cameras to the system, how to navigate the settings, also while showing the live view, like I mentioned, and just pretty much covering everything that you need to get started with our AI-based system. So starting off, the first thing you can see is we are on the NVR here. All this display that you see is directly from the NVR. It's not on the web page or anything like that. So when you first initialize your NVR, you'll be met with this screen. If you have the cameras plugged directly into the NVR will automatically initialize the cameras and add them for you. In cases where you have them added on a switch, and just like our demo today, the cameras are in the back of our office in a PoE switch. They are on the network, but I can show you how to add that and give you a full walkthrough. So the first thing we'll do is go into our configuration settings. And then the first page you'll be met with is your channel options. So like I mentioned, if you have it plugged directly to the NVR will automatically add those cameras in and initialize it with the NVR password. If you have them on a switch, what you'll do is click on Add Device, click on Search, and this will begin to search for all the cameras that are on your network. This can be OnVIF cameras or AI-based cameras. If they are AI-based cameras, you still have that plug-and-play functionality. So what we can do is look for our IP cameras. The first one will be our dual lens. So you can see here it's 192.168.1.25. And then the second camera is going to be our single lens 180. So if we just scroll down, look for it here, this is it. So now all we need to do is click on Add. Username is default, password is default. Like I mentioned, you gain this functionality if you are using an AI-based camera with an AI-based NVR. So all you need to do is click on Add. The only time where this may be different is if you initialize the camera with a different password than the NVR. However, there is options to set a default camera password within the NVR settings. So as you can see, now the two cameras are online. So what I'll do here is I'll go back to the live view so you can see the true image of them. So on the left, we have our dual lens. If we just zoom in here, you can see that this is a wider horizontal view, so more left to right. We do have another demo camera here in the way, but you will be able to see the entire street all the way down, going into the outside external area here. But you can see this entire street here. Now, if we go into our 180 single lens, you don't get, it's still a 180 view. However, you get a more top to bottom image, just like Austin mentioned. So you still have 180 coverage, but more top to bottom. So like he said, if you need to cover like entrances to doors, or maybe like loading docks that you need to see a little bit more top to bottom, you'll go ahead and use this camera. But again, here is the side by side. So still 180 for both. However, on the right side with the single lens, more top to bottom coverage, whereas on the left side, the dual lens, you get more horizontal left to right imaging. So from here, since we're on this page, what you can do is you have a few options. You can switch the stream from mainstream to substream just by clicking this HD SD. If you want to play audio directly from your TV, you can go ahead and click on audio and adjust the volume here. The other options are your layouts. So you have custom layouts that you can choose if you're using obviously more than two cameras. Let's say, for example, you're using a 16 channel. If you want to do 25 cameras, 36 cameras, this is a 32 channel. So depending on the NVR, if you're using a smaller one like a 4, 8, or 16, you may not have these options available. You will only have it up to what the NVR can support. However, you still can do custom layouts. And if you click on user defined, this gear tab, that'll allow you to create them here. Another option that many customers like is the cycle mode. So what this does is you can see there's a countdown timer. So this will just cycle through all of your cameras. This is mainly used for, like guards that are watching it, that sometimes they just want to have them cycle through. So this will just cycle through every 5 seconds or so and just keep switching back and forth. You could turn that off. The other options would be lights and sirens. They can also be manually activated from this NVR page. And then the other thing would be playback. So if you click on this icon here on the bottom left, this will take you directly to the NVR playback. So from here, you can select your date, you can select your time, select your channels, and then just skip through. And then the options that you see here in green, that's your 24-hour continuous recording. Whereas the blue icons, if I zoom in here a little bit more, those are all of your AI events. So that means, as you can see here, since we have human and vehicle detection on, that will appear as an AI event, and you can see there is someone walking in the back. And then in some cases, you can also enable a bounding box, which just means that it'll bring up a green square or just something to highlight the object that is being detected. You can also video clip, so click on that, adjust your timeline here with these two arrow markers, and then click on save video, and that will download that specific clip. If you have a USB, you can plug that in. If you have our desktop or even the mobile app, it'll either save to your computer or to your phone, depending on the platform that you're using. So that would cover the playback options. Now moving into the configuration, we'll go back into this page. So from the main tab here, which is covered as channel, like I mentioned, you have your cameras here, and then you have PoE power. This is really important for many customers that are plugging into their NVR because PoE power will allow you to see if there's any cable issues, or sometimes there might be a camera issue, but more often than not, it's just a cable crimping problem. So with this, if you have any cameras plugged in, it'll show you, it'll be lit up blue and give you a power rating. So it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 watts or maybe 4 watts, just depending on the camera that you're using. But for the most part, majority of our cameras typically hover around 2 to 3 watts of power. And then if you are getting power, however, no data, typically that just means that it could be a cable crimping problem, or just you need to retest the line, and that will fix the problem. For your long cable runs, our NVRs can support up to 732 feet per port. So in this case, this is a 32 channel with 16 port PoE. So let's say you have a really long cable distance run that exceeds the 300 standard range. So all you need to do is click on ePoE. it will decrease the transmission to 10 megabits per second, and then increase power output. So again, like I mentioned, up to 732 feet. That will just be for long cable distance, like I mentioned. Other options here would be your live view. So within this live view, you have options to change your name here. So you can see we have dual lens and then the date and time. You can change it from 24-hour to 12-hour, show your name. The name can be changed here. And then that is all that really pages that you can do there. And then you also have the options here as well. Your image control, this is where many customers like to use things such as wide dynamic range. So if we go into the option here, click on more settings, exposure compensation, and then depending on the camera, it will either be WDR or digital wide dynamic range. You also have the highlight compensation as well. That can be very useful depending on the situation or the environment where the camera is. The other options would be your vertical and horizontal flip, or even the corridor mode. So really, again, this all just depends on where the camera is mounted, the environment, if the lens is flipped. All of those settings can be adjusted within the camera options here. Your video parameters, I would say that you can change them here. However, this is mainly for your encoding settings. So your record options, I would recommend to leave it in dual stream. So again, this will record both in mainstream and substream. So you have two options available. If you really want to, you can record only in mainstream. However, most people keep this default. Then you have your mainstream, substream, and third stream options. This is where you change your resolution, your frame rate, your encoding format. So we can change that to H.265. Your encoding mode, so controlled bitrate versus variable bitrate. And then you can also change your bitrate manually there on the right side. And then for more sensitive installs where audio is either required or must be turned off, you can turn that off here. So let's say we don't want to record any type of audio for sensitive information. All we need to do is just click on disable, click on apply, and now the audio is turned off. And then you can adjust your levels here for your microphone and your speaker. For these other options, I would say you can go through them. They may work for your situation. However, most times you don't need to do anything for these other options here. Now going into your storage, this is your recording schedule. So your recording schedule, by default, it is set to 24 hours continuous recording. However, again, based on personal preference or if they need to meet certain requirements for recording time, you can disable continuous recording and switch it over to motion. So all you need to do is switch it to motion, click on copy, select all the channels that you want to copy that schedule to, and then click on copy and then apply. That's all you need to do from there. And then you can also manage your hard drives here. So such as formatting for your bigger NVR 64 channel and up, you can group them together and select specific channels that you want to record on that hard drive. So that can be done here. However, we don't have the option here just because this is a 32 channel that would be available on 64 and above. Then your alarm tab. So the NVRs starting from 16 channel and up have alarm inputs and outputs on the back of it. They are green connections. That is one way to easily identify. So if you have any internal or external alarm or inputting internal alarms options on there, you can manage them here. The other important things would be voice prompt. So I talked about this before in our previous webinars, but your voice prompts, you can use custom pre-built ones, or you can import them, your own files, or do text-to-speech. So you just type in the audio or the phrase that you want, click on import, and that will save the file name to the system. Secondly is IP speaker. So you have the option to use our AI-based speakers with the NVR. All you need to do is type in a device name, type in the IP address of the speaker, the username and password, and that's it. Once your speaker is added, then you'll have the option here to link it and bind it to a channel, meaning whenever there's an event, the speaker will trigger and play the activated sound that you have preset on it. Next is your deterrence. So deterrence covers two features: your warning lights, which is your red and blue lights, and your siren. Both settings here are the same in terms of scheduling and enabling. You also have duration for how long it will stay active. Same thing goes for the siren. You can enable. We do have two preloaded sirens options. Change your siren sound audio level, so from 1 to 10, and then your duration and schedule. Again, those are pretty self-explanatory. Many people use these features for all of their deterrence. That is something that AIBASE offers and works very well in. last thing on this page would be disarming. So anything that you see here that is check marked, there is sometimes some confusion on how this works, and so I would like to better explain that. So disarming means whenever you have your AI set up, it's on a schedule, and let's say, for example, you have after business hours, but you need to go in after business hours to, just clean up your store or whatever the case may be. So you want to disarm the system without having everything activating and, all the sirens activated. All you would need to do is simply select each item that you want to deactivate. So as you can see here, everything is the checkbox, and then click on the checkbox here and click on apply. And now your system is disarmed. Let's say we only want to disarm a few things. So we'll just go ahead and start unchecking a couple of these options. Click on apply. So now everything that is unchecked will remain active, while the other options that are checked will be active. And then you can also set it on a schedule as well if you don't want to manually do that every time. Next, we'll go into the event tab. So event tab is for all of your AI features on all the AI-based cameras. Again, depending on the camera you're using, the AI may vary. However, majority of our product line, they typically cover all the same AI features. So you have everything from your target detection, which would be face and pedestrian. If you're using our new blacklight model, you'll have an additional feature here, which is multi-target type, meaning you can just select a wide variety of over 100 different types of objects to activate as an AI event. Then you have your license plate, mainly used for our LPR cameras. For your behavior analysis, you have loitering, enter-exit region, perimeter intrusion, line crossing, and object detection. Excuse me. Your statistic analysis, you have cross-counting, heat maps, crowd density, queue length, rare sound, and then you just have your smart motion detection and veto tampering. So for the most commonly used is pedestrian and vehicle. So what we can do here is, as you can see, this is already enabled out of box. So if you don't want to use that, you can just uncheck it and then select the AI that you want to use. But from my experience working with all of our partners, the most commonly used is pedestrian vehicle. That is why we have it default. So this is one option you can do. So what you'll do here is adjust your minimum and maximum pixel size, meaning this is the smallest an object has to be before it is detected, and then this is the largest it has to be before it is detected. If something is bigger and exceeds this limit of this green box, it will no longer be detected within the camera view. So just make sure that depending on where you're mounting it or where you're placing it, to adjust this accordingly. Secondly is your detection area. By default, it detects full screen, so you can change it from full screen to user defined. And then instead of user defined, you'll have an option to do add or draw, and then you can draw out a specific zone. Next is your sensitivity. So that can be from 1 to 100. Again, just depends on how sensitive you want the camera to be. And your detection target. So human, vehicle, or non-motorized vehicle. And then your detection mode is moving only or always moving. So you do have those options available there. Next, we can go into alarm linkage. So for alarm linkage, we can actually go to this camera here so I can show you other options. Alarm linkage, you have the show message, just meaning that on the sidebar, it'll pop up on the NVR. And then you have your linkage options for your white floodlight, your warning light, which is your red and blue, your sirens, and your voice prompts. So depending on what you want to use for your specific situation, this may vary. Everything from a residential to a small shop or a commercial project like a big warehouse or loading dock. You may adjust your settings and use what is appropriate for that. Typically, we see for small, like a residential, they'll typically just use a siren, whereas a large commercial project will use our IP speakers with voice prompts enabled. So again, just plan out. If you need help determining what works best for your install, you can always let us know and we can help you solution that properly. And then the last thing would be your AI schedule. So your AI schedule would be just whenever it is active. So anything that is in blue, meaning it is active. If we take out some of the blue, anything that you see that is white, meaning it is not active during that time period. So that would cover all of the AI portion of that. And then we'll go next into networking. So networking, in this case, I would say is really only applicable if you have a 32 channel or above. So you'll have two LAN ports. LAN 1 is what will be connected to your router or your internet. You can see all of this. We can leave it default since we don't need to make any changes. However, the changes will come on LAN port number 2. So this is if you exceed the 16 port PoE that is built in and you have external switches. What our recommendation is to have those cameras, whether it's a 32 channel, 64, or even a 256 channel NVR, to have them on a different gateway and subnet to limit a bottleneck on your network. Otherwise, it's going to be a ton of bandwidth going through, and it will make your network extremely slow and extremely laggy. The cameras will be very delayed just because the internet is not capable of supporting that many video streams at once. So by changing the IP address for all the cameras and having LAN 2 on a different subnet, that will eliminate that, and your cameras will work seamlessly without any delay, any lag. So this is more of an advanced setup. However, this is the best recommendation to avoid all of those issues and keep your customers happy. Uh, Last thing would be here would be our cloud server. So for our cloud server, this is typically what we use for our new feature, which is binding it to your cloud account. So all you need to do is click on, I have read the agreement, click on apply, select your region. We can just select any region for this example, and then click on apply, and it will start to generate a QR code. So the QR code you didn't see because we didn't select the correct region. However, once you select United States, the code will pop up, and then you just scan it in the app, and that will bind the NVR to your account. So no matter where you sign in, whether it's the app, the VMS, the web VMS, your account and NVR and all of your devices will always be there. The rest of these settings are very specific use cases. So I would say 99% of the time, these other options do not get used. If you need to go more in detail, again, you could always contact us so we can explain it a little bit more in detail for it. Lastly is your system. So this is where you'll change the name of your NVR. You can change your video format, the web session timeout if you're logging into the web page, your date and time, your daylight savings configuration, and then your output configuration. So depending on the NVR, since this is a 32 channel, you can change it from HDMI 1 and HDMI 2 configurations so that you can select the channels on what you want to display on the other monitor that you have it connected to. You have those options. Then multi-user. Multi-user is where you can create up to 32 individual accounts through adding in P2P option. So you can just create a username, password, and then for permissions, you can select with all these different permissions on like what channels you want them to have access to. If you want to give them remote access, face database management, hard drive access, you can just customize it based on who you want to control and what their role is with this system. Next is maintenance. You can view system logs here, go through, search for any type of log that you want, select your date and time, click on search, and that will find all the system logs. Next is your default settings. So this will be your factory defaults. Again, with this, you need to proceed with caution as it will wipe your entire system. Your upgrade options, I would recommend contacting AIBASE support for this, Ameta support, in order to do this to avoid any issues on your end, as we will be able to properly upgrade your system if needed. And then the other options here are just auto maintenance and parameter management to save some settings. Same thing goes for your cameras. You do have the option to upgrade them here. Once again, I recommend to contact us for support if your cameras do need to be upgraded. Then you have your default cameras. So this will just reset them back to factory settings. If you need to reboot a camera, just a quick reboot, you can do that here. And if your cameras have SD cards, you can format the SD card directly from the NVR. And then lastly is the information tab. That will include everything from your device name, device IP address, network status, P2P, QR code, P2P ID, and your cloud ID. So all of that sensitive information will be found in your system information tab. And so again, just to recap, this was a full comprehensive review of our AI-based cameras. And again, we showed the differences between the single lens versus the dual lens and how one of them is top to bottom versus horizontal wide mode. So again, if you have any questions, we'll go into that right now with Austin as we take it back to him for our Q&A session.
All right, thank you, Zach. That was truly great information. That's what we wanted to cover today. Let's get into our live Q&A. While you post your questions in the chat, let's share some FAQs from our installer and integrator partners about the panoramic cameras. Question number one is panoramic better than fisheye? For many commercial applications, especially outdoors, yes, because the image is often much more usable. Question number two we get, does the image distort? A little bit, as you saw, but much less than traditional fisheye designs. Question number three, can this replace multiple cameras? As I mentioned earlier, in many wide horizontal scenes, absolutely, they can replace multiple traditional cameras. Question four, where are they commonly installed? Well, anywhere you need wide area visibility from a central position, you go with these panoramic cameras. Question number five, are they effective at night? Yes, with AI-based models, you get full color capability and active deterrence, and so they're great for nighttime surveillance. All right, so those are my quick 5 questions there. We're going to go ahead and wait for some more to come in. As they come in, we'll go ahead and answer them. So let us know if you have questions about projects, settings, anything like that. Again, right now we're taking questions from any viewers, so we're just looking at the chat here. If you have questions for us, please let us know. And yes, so these AI, well, we see one question here. Let me just go over it. Do AI-based 180 cameras have active deterrence? Correct. Yes, they do have active deterrence on our 5 megapixel single lens and our dual lens 180 cameras. They both have active deterrence, red and blue strobe lights, or if you don't want to use red and blue, you can use the white light to strobe as well. All right. Keep them coming, guys. If you have any more questions, drop them in the chat. So we have another question come in. What about two-way audio? Can I talk down? Yes, these cameras come equipped with a built-in mic and speaker, so you can go ahead and do talk down for two-way audio. So again, that's active deterrence, two-way audio, AI analytics, and a great wide image sensor. Okay. All right, guys. Looks like we covered a lot today. I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm gonna, like always, we appreciate you tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss one of our Friday live streams. Take care, and we'll catch you next week.